All right, so everyone, thank you very much for coming to our Tuesday at noon. So this, Ann Whitmore is here today to talk about how she uses networking to build her business. And she has just an amazing kind of long-term strategy about using these events that I really wanted everyone to have a chance to see. I just have never seen anyone kind of make use of networking in quite the way that Ann does. So this is the third one. We have, I think there's 2 more coming up, right?
Yeah.
And Heather will be back again next week. And so this is being videotaped. You all know that. I'm just letting you know that this will be available afterwards so that you can come back and review, or for those of you who miss a session, you should be able to go back and see the ones that you missed. So with that, Ann, thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
And I will be your scribe when
Great.
you
Okay.
need it.
Hi, I'm Ann Whitmore, and I'm glad that you all came. And I'm sort of amused that I've been asked to do this. Leslie says I have a long-term strategy. I don't. I mean, I don't actually have a strategy. I just know what makes networking fun for me, and so that's what I'll share. And it's been effective. I mean, it's been the way this was great that you asked me to do this, because it helped me sort of step back and think, why the heck is she asking me to do this? And then to think, wow, I've built my whole business this way. And it's a huge business at this point. So I apparently have a de facto strategy. Anyway, it's working. So, but I would like to start, I'll give you kind of an overview of my plan for this hour. I want to start with finding out from you why you came, kind of what you're looking for, so I make sure that I don't want to just talk at you and not give you what you want. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my story and sort of how I got into networking and that. And what's worked for me. Also the biggest mistakes that I see people make, and I've done a lot of networking over the last 3.5 years, so, and the same mistakes repeat themselves. And then just kind of end with a summary of tips. Just to, sometimes it's helpful for me to have the high points identified at the end so I can walk away with something solid. And then any questions that you have. Okay, so maybe, could I start with you and just find out what you're doing here?
Well, I have a rather popular but unsuccessful financially business, and I'm trying to learn to become a better business person. So
you want to build your business through networking? Is that it?
I guess. I'm willing to learn about anything at this point.
Okay. And I'm Ann. What's your name?
John.
John.
Williams.
John. Oh, yeah, I recognize your name. Alex?
Well, my name's Alex, and I'm a designer, creative, artist person, and I've been in business for myself for about 5 or 6 years now, and I'm kind of like John. It's like I always want to learn about how to do better, and I'm sort of in a little bit of a transitional mode with my business. Some things are kind of going up while others are going down, and I'm trying to kind of pick a lane a little bit. So anything that can kind of help me focus.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Elise?
I am probably a little bit the way you are. I'm kind of what's it called, unintentional networker, and it thought it'd be interesting to hear a little bit about how you could be strategic about it. That's basically me.
Good luck finding
I'm also
that.
kind of to be honest, I'm kind of dropping in while I'm having my lunch and getting a bit of the flavor of the event.
And you might wander out.
And I'm looking for a job right now, and so I need to go and do some applications that I'm doing today. So I have to duck out.
Hi, I'm Rob Gottschall, and I am working with a company out of Puyallup that sells control systems for your home that are operated by iPhones and iPads to control all the environmental and audio and visual equipment. And I've had some success networking directly, but I need to expand my business to Kitsap County as well. And my wife and I just moved here 1.5 years ago, so I'm still learning the territory and the people. So any tactics and strategies that I can gain to to enhance that process would be helpful.
Okay, great, thank you.
Hi, I'm Marcia, and I'm here because basically I find networking really intimidating. I'm sort of like a natural introvert. I've been in business for myself for 15 years, but I'm going through kind of a transitional, exactly what it is that I'm doing and who I want to work with and how I want those people to get to me.
Okay, great. Oh, I'm so glad you came. I'm
Hello.
an introvert too.
My name is Sid, and I've got a lot of experience as far as a one-to-one consultative kind of settings. So I've always, known the importance of networking, but when you take a subject like that, it sounds simple, but I know there's so many details and nuance that can really make a big difference. So that's why I'm here.
Great. Okay, the nuance thing I think that's great. I think it's important. Bill?
Okay. I've been in business, for about 19 years now, so my own business. And just like the networking, like today, I got a call from a guy in California that wants me to work on a project, another call from Port Orchard. And these things are coming from all over, and I'm wondering, is there a more strategic approach where you can get, have this defined rather than spontaneous calls
Yeah.
coming in once in
Right.
a while?
Kind of being more in the driver's seat on your
Yeah, have
business
a
rather than-
plan.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Karen. Been networking a long time, been in business a very long time. I'm making a transition from one field to another. I'm also a writer, and so that's coming out in the front. So I love people, I love to meet them. I don't have a plan for networking. Maybe I should, I don't know. Glad to be here.
Glad you are.
Hi, I'm Holly, and I am an artist and illustrator, and I'm actually attending a conference this weekend for the Society of Children's Books Authors and Illustrators. This is the first one I'm going to, and I'm good at making friends, but I'm not good at networking. So I would like to be able to go into these situations more with, rather than just being a friend or a confidant, but learning how to make those into working relationships.
That's great. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up.
I'm Jamie, I'm experienced, and I just started my job about 6 months ago, started my business. So I'm trying to absorb anything and everything.
Okay.
This is one.
Good. This is a great way to build your business, so, okay, great, thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to start by just telling you a little bit about me and, so I'm as Leslie said, my name's Ann Whitmore, and I'm a habits of health coach. So I help people, most of my clients, I help them lose weight and start on the optimal health journey. And learn, more importantly, what they need to learn to keep the weight off forever. That's really that's the focus, is the habits of health, learning the habits of health. And I love it. I mean, what I find is, I help people get off medications for like type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, those kinds of things. And really what this is tapped into is the passion that I have for supporting people and getting out of their little boxes. So I think most of us are resigned to certain things in our lives, like I was resigned, I was turning 50, and I was resigned to the fact that I had high cholesterol. I was like 10 pounds overweight, so that really wasn't the cause of it, I thought. I don't eat red meat and fatty things, so I just was resigned. It's just kind of the way it is. You get older and you get on medications. My husband was on cholesterol medication for years and went to the doctor and he was pre-diabetic. That freaked him out. But we were just kind of resigned. It's just the way it is. And you just go to a job and and what I find is that there are lots of different entry points, I think, to change, but this is one of them. And this is the one that I use. If people start changing their health, everything else in their lives can change because they become empowered. So I just often hear from people, I never thought I could do this. I wonder what else I can do. That kind of thing. So that's really my passion. And I'll say in relation to networking, I think it's essential that you're clear about your passion I think I started doing it at the beginning of this business before I was really clear about why I think this is really, really important. Then I started with some, my husband lost 39 pounds, went off of his cholesterol medication, and he's no longer type 2 pre-diabetic. He's clean bill of health. My cholesterol, lost my 10 pounds that I couldn't lose no matter what I did. And I went from the danger zone cholesterol down into the normal zone, and the doctor's no longer concerned about my cholesterol. That's 10 pounds. And more importantly, it's a change in my habits. So little tweaks in habits, that's what I work with people on. And what it's done is just sort of released a sense of possibility. Like, I don't have to be resigned to whatever it is that I'm resigned to. And I find that with my clients all the time. That it helps people get out of the little prisons that we set for ourselves. So that's what I really love about it. Let's see. Oh, and when I first started this business, all my friends were, majority lived on Bainbridge Island, and they were all healthy people, and it just wasn't a right market for me, is what it felt like. It's like they weren't interested, they weren't, they're hiking all the time, they're, eating really well, they're not overweight. So what I realized is if I'm gonna do this, I gotta do that dreaded networking thing, which, a few years before that, I didn't even know really what it was. And I'll have to say OfficeXPats was a huge benefit to me, and it continues to be, and I'll talk more about that later, but this community is just really amazing, and there are a lot of networking events here, so this was a great place for me to get my feet wet. So I realized if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to network. I've just got to get people outside of my little sphere. And so I started going to Kitsap, various things in Kitsap County, which I can share with you, various things in Seattle. There are women in business kind of events all over, Seattle and Kitsap County. And so this is what has worked for me. And we'll just keep an eye on this and see. I think I'm going to hit most of these things, but we'll go back to the things that I haven't covered. The most important thing I've found for me is it's got to be fun. If it's not fun, I'm not in my mojo or whatever. I mean, if I'm not in a good place, then it doesn't work. So if I find that one isn't an event I try and it isn't fun for me, then I just won't go back. And I'll talk a little bit more about what makes it fun for me, but that's a key thing. It really is important to me that it be fun. And I tend to prefer networking events where there is the opportunity. Like we just went around the room briefly, and at least you got to say your name and a little bit about what you do. And for me, that's important because I'm kind of shy. It's harder for me. I mean, I used to get the feeling when I first went to networking events, like this is like a cocktail party. Mm-hmm. And I hate cocktail parties, and I hate that level of conversation. So I just have to steel myself to go to these things. And so what I find is that if I kind of look for the events where there is an opportunity for me to say what I do to everybody in the room. Because in my business, what I know is that the way that I effectively spread the word is to say to people, basically, do you know anyone who? So what I do is I help people with type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, sleep apnea. I'm asking them, do you know anyone who fits in that category? And most people do. So that's the message that I give to people. And I want to get that out to the whole room without doing this, quick shake hands and tell everybody individually. Because those aren't the kind of conversations I want to have one-on-one. I'd rather have that in the whole group. Any questions about that before I? Okay. And then during the mingling part of the event, this is the biggest challenge for me now, is I try not to stay in one place the whole time and talk to one person, but that's my inclination. Because as I'll discuss, if I connect with somebody, then it's fun to talk to them, and I want to stay talking. And then if you have kind of an introverted personality, that's a safe place to be. But I really get drawn into talking to people. I get interested in them, and So then it's hard for me to move on. So what I want to encourage you to do, and I encourage myself to do, is to say, I really would love to, I'd love to hear more about what you do or who you know, whatever your life. Let's have coffee. Let's set up a time to have coffee. How about if you give me your business card and I'll give you a call. Then that gives us an opportunity outside of the networking venue to talk further. And I get to meet more people in the room. Another thing that's great is to connect with people who are looking fearful in the corner. I mean, you know, I was thinking that is something, I mean, I've been the fearful person in the corner enough times, but I like it when somebody comes over and brings me in, and particularly at like a Chamber of Commerce after hours. There are always people in these like tight conversations, and it's really difficult often to break into the conversations. Less so now for me because I've practiced doing it a number of times, a lot of times, but anyway, that's a nice way to connect with someone too, is just if you see someone else who's looking uncomfortable, just to kind of talk to them. It's an easy thing for you to do, and it puts them at ease. And then I think probably one of the most important things that, most effective things, I guess I should say, is the way I like to start a conversation with someone at a networking event is, hi, what do you do? Or tell me about yourself, or something like that. It takes the spotlight off of me. I don't like doing performance kind of things. I don't want to do my spiel. I don't want to speak and have a person's eyes glaze over, which happens like in 5 seconds. You just start into your spiel, like so fast. And then if the person, when I say, hi, what do you do? If there isn't a connection, like if they're not really looking at me, if there isn't a connection, if it's just a pre-recorded message that I'm getting, then I'm the one whose eyes are going to glaze over. And
How do you get out of that one without asking them for a coffee date?
yeah. So then I just say, I mean, what I'll say,
question, actually.
well, and what I was going to say is what happens in those situations is often people won't stop. And as they notice I'm less than interested, they'll talk more to try to persuade me to be interested. And I will just look for a break in the conversation and say, thanks, good to meet you, and I'll just move on. I mean, what I find is it's painful, that's a painful enough conversation for me that I really need to get away, because it just, I don't know why it feels painful to me, but it does. I feel spat upon or something. I don't know what it is. I feel used. What?
You're being mean.
I think she means how she feels.
Oh, how she feels.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, I'm totally fine with moving on. I just need to find a break in the conversation, so, because I don't want to.
Well, that's one where I have difficulty, actually. I mean, I have a hard time putting my own priorities first in those situations.
Great thing to practice, though.
Yeah.
Because you can get better at it, really. And, I mean, I could even, say to somebody, great to hear about your business. I really want to make sure that I get around to more people. So great to meet you, shake hands, and leave. And the truth of the matter is, if I were that person, that would be good feedback for me. And you can be really nice about it, but it's awful to get stuck in those. I've gotten stuck in them so many times. I mean, so that really is a big one to get away from those people, I think. And normally what people will do, not that person we're talking about, Tobias, but other people will usually get to the point where it's feeling like they should ask, what do you do? Or who are you? Tell me about yourself or something. At that point, the benefit of this, having asked them, I mean, there are a lot of benefits of having asked them, what do you do first? But one benefit is I know more about them now. So I can target what it is I talk about. I mean, if it's someone who is, I don't do anything, I'm in between jobs, I just got laid off, if that's what they're telling me, I might talk to them about health coaching. I mean, I have a team of 50 health coaches that I train. That's part of what I do. And then, they help people with the health issues as well as me helping people with the health issues. So I might talk to them about that. And I certainly could talk to anyone about, do you know anyone who has those issues I was mentioning. But I find it just makes it a back and forth. Okay, so now I know something about them. I know what they're interested in. I might ask a few more questions, and then I could tell them, what I do. But it's from an educated perspective about them rather than just, talking at them. So, do you have any questions about that?
Just a comment about what you just said, is if you ask someone if they know someone that would be interested in this, you're kind of letting them off the hook a little bit, instead of saying, would you be interested in this? And so that kind of can make it a more comfortable one-on-one situation.
And I don't like being put on the spot. And, so it's much, and I mean, frequently I'll get a response like, oh my gosh, my mother-in-law just found out she has type 2 diabetes, or.
And if you're lucky, they'll say, well, yeah, actually, me.
They often do. I often hear that, well, I should be doing it. Or, yeah, I really want to hear more about it.
I'm curious, so when that happens, when somebody says, well, yes, I do know someone, my grandmother, my aunt, whatever, is your response, do you basically tell them more about yourself, give them their card and say, feel free to pass on my card, and then it's very passive? Or do you actually try to connect through them to this other person?
I try, but, and often people are pretty protective of their people. And I will always tell them, if they're thinking about giving me the contact information, I reassure them I'm not going to try to persuade them of anything. I'm just going to see if there's a fit. I mean, that's really what I'll say. And so if they are willing, what they usually say is, I will talk to her, and if she's up for it, I'll have her give you a call. I mean, it's difficult for me to end up with making sure that I have their contact information, so that I can follow up with them to see how that conversation went, but it's often hard to get someone else's contact information.
Can I add something to that? When I get a referral and people tell me, I know this person, I was associated with them for whatever, they really need to know you, they know that you're going to call them here. And so then I will call that person. Usually for people to call me back, they have to be ready. And so often they don't call me back right away. I let the referring person know that they haven't called yet. And sometimes their relationship is such that the person I was calling needs to talk to the person who knows me a lot first, and then that person will eventually coax them, and they'll call me, and they'll be less ready. They'll be less hesitant and more ready and more comfortable. So it's a relationship with the person that gave the referral. That becomes more the focus than the actual person.
Yes, it's almost like they become your advocate.
It's a dance. We're all dancing, and eventually someday it works. It doesn't always happen fast. Sometimes it's 6 months.
Right. And it doesn't, I mean, that's, I think, when you say long-term strategy, I never leave anymore. I never leave a networking event and think, that was a bust, I didn't get a new client. I never think that way about it anymore. But also, remember that what I started with was, it's got to be fun. So I'm having fun anyway, so it's not a waste of my time anyway. But, yeah.
So in that case, do you make notes on the back of their business card or something just to remember about their grandmother or whatever?
Absolutely.
Do you do it right then and there, or do you try to do it later?
I do it I'll often do it right then and there as we're talking, but I do make sure to write on the business cards. That's really good when I write the date, the event that I went to, and something to help me remember that person. And then if there's any follow-up, specific follow-up I need to do.
I'll put things, visuals, I believe visual. So for me, it's all visual. I mean, and sometimes it's information they might have shared that's kind of bizarre, but very memorable. So then when we connect, your scarf, and you talked about your best friend's neighbor's dog, and they'll say, you remember? That is wild. And then just.
That's a good point.
I bring up all this esoteric stuff that in the moment seemed important, and to the people it usually is. It's like, oh my goodness, you just reminded me of something I have to do.
Yeah, that's great. Another thing that I'm terrible at, to be honest with you, is follow-up. But honestly, I think I spent a year networking in Seattle, going to these events, taking the ferry over all the time, and I just ended up with business cards, like a stack of business cards like this, and I never followed up except with people who showed an interest. And all of a sudden I realized, I wonder how much benefit there was to all those things I went to, $40 a lunch. And so that's something really work on now. So that's one thing I wanted to say is it really can be a waste of your time if you don't follow up and develop, I'll talk a little bit more about developing relationships in a second, but follow-up is a big thing. And that was another thing I wanted to say about OfficeXPats. This place is so forgiving when it comes to that because we keep showing up. So I don't have to be an effective follow-upper. I just keep coming back to OfficeXPats and doing things at OfficeXPats and putting on events at OfficeXPats and attending other people's events at OfficeXPats, and I have a community. So, and it's fun. So anyway, this is an amazing place for me for networking. It's like, oh my gosh, this is my home on Bainbridge Island, really. It just feels like this is the heart of my community, is OfficeXPats now. Who'd have thought?
And you put on events for other people.
Yeah, that's fun too. So I'll talk a little bit about that is building relationships. So I think really effective networking is building relationships. And so of course it's easier at OfficeXPats because people are around and I see them then the next day. And so what I find is, I think this is just kind of something that I think I'm a nurturer in one of those personality scales. So it's fun for me to support other people. And what I find is when I ask, what do you do? In the beginning of a conversation at a networking event, when I find out there's somebody, like for example, somebody I know who needs that service, once I get to know that person and I feel really good about them, if I don't feel like I'm being sold to, but it's someone who's, a genuine person who I really can connect to, I'll just, in a second, I'll talk to my friend and say, look, this is a great person. You were looking for X. I think she would be fantastic for you. And I try to connect those two people. And I'll tell the person I'm talking to, I've got a friend I think might really benefit from this. So, and that's fun for me because it helps my friend, it helps this person, it just kind of meets my personality needs. So it's, and then I've got it kind of like an emotional commitment to the whole thing. It's not just a superficial marketing event. It's a, then I care about the people at the, there, and anyway, so it's about building relationships. And for me, that it's just kind of an easy thing to do. It's what makes it fun and satisfying. And then what happens, and this is, seriously, I think the way to, one needs to give without expectation. It needs to be fun to connect people. It needs to be fun to support somebody else in their business. Period, that's the end of the story. And I'm developing a friendship, a relationship with somebody, and that is absolutely enough for me. What happens though is that it just seems like then there are more people in my auditorium or something. It's like then I end up, somehow it just, I don't look at the direct relationship between the person I'm supporting and whether or not they then supported me. It's not a quid pro quo kind of a thing at all. But what happens, I find, there's something about momentum. When I'm doing that, I'm out in the world and I'm, sort of giving of myself and connecting with other people, my business grows. And I don't get it altogether. I'm like so non-strategic and so non-linear, I think, but what I know is when I'm doing that, my business grows. And it doesn't necessarily grow from here. But there's something about my energy that causes it to grow. So, any comments or questions about that?
It's totally true.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I've had that experience too, where, and I think it's almost like, it's like you say, if you don't go into these things really expecting, like, okay, I'm going to make a sale, or I'm going to make a new client, or whatever, but it's kind of, I've always believed in like the universe speaking and all that sort of thing. I think it's true that if you're just authentic and just connecting with somebody, that eventually that stuff does come around, because I have noticed that too when I've just been out in the world. And people might remember you after they see you a couple times or whatever and go, oh yeah, remember a couple months ago, or but yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's like you hear people say, people that are single and they can't find a mate, and they're always, oh, I wish I would meet somebody, and they don't because they're so like, I need this, and then when they forget about it, then next thing you know, they're meeting somebody.
And they
It's the
just
same way.
get into, kind of a good energy and have fun and be out there and enjoy people and, I know.
Yeah.
And do you enhance your networking efforts with other types of marketing efforts, or do you find that the networking leads to referrals and that's the best type of advertising?
Do I do things for their marketing, like ads or?
Ads or,
Well, you do,
open houses,
you put on events.
mailings, email marketing,
Yeah, I don't do that stuff.
any kind
I
of.
do put on events. It's just an extension of networking though. It's like, when Leslie and Jason set up OfficeXPats, I had wanted events on Bainbridge, there was the chamber, and they didn't do the events in the way that I wanted them done, because I didn't get a chance to say my 30-second thing to people, or 5-second thing, or whatever it is. And that's kind of all I really could find on the island, and so this provided the opportunity to, I just felt like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. I can set this up the way I want to set it up, and of course they were so generous, whatever you want to do, and so I just did it the way I wanted to do it, and had a, once a month Wednesday thing after hours, and it was great. It was really fun. So that I do that, but that's kind of an extension of networking, because what I really see, and I will say across the board, is it's all about relationships.
And also I can say that, so Ann's event, that first Wednesday event, we dropped it for the summer, and then in the fall, Ann sort of had moved on at that point, because she was moving on to Italy. But we revived it as a first Thursday, and then put it under the heading of the BBC. And then it's about storytelling. I mean, that's kind of the general theme. We're doing different experiments with it, but going around and having people tell little anecdotal stories, is to try to get beyond the elevator pitch and to help get people so that they're showing themselves a little bit more, being a little more revealing, having a real story as opposed to just, a little memorized elevator pitch. So that first Thursday BBC is a direct outcome of what you invented with the first Wednesday thing.
And I love the story, because elevator pitches are really forgettable. There may be 1 in 100 that is gonna wow you. But stories, man, that connects people. So that's why I just love it that, that's the way that, is it first Thursday, second Thursday?
It's first Thursday,
First Thursday.
yeah.
I love that because we do remember each other by stories and connect that way.
Do you mind, as I interrupt you,
I'd like you
talking
to.
about it, do you mind going into that a bit more? Because I am going to this thing where there's going to be 400 people in a 2-day period where I probably will have some opportunities to talk at length with some people, but if I do only have 10 or 5 minutes or 10 minutes to speak with people, how would you make yourself vulnerable in your elevator pitch?
Oh, okay.
Like if you are marketing and you do have a short amount of time of how to engage with people.
So I guess what I would say is I want to know something about them before I talk about me, because I don't know what they'd be interested in. Once I get to know them a little bit, then because otherwise it's non-targeted. It's like just spewing. And that's how it feels to me. There's so many different ways of doing this, but for me that's how. So that I don't know that. So I've got certain things that I would tend to, I found myself saying in certain situations depending on what someone's needs are, but I always start with them, which puts me, it's like, it seems selfish of me in a way to do that, because it puts me in a position where I've got the information, I know how to guide this I don't think of it as controlling, but it is. It just makes it more interesting to me, and then maybe we can get to a level that's different than the
But then you
cocktail level.
do storytelling. Once the conversation does come back around to you, and once you know how to target, you are telling stories about.
Yeah.
how the transformations
Yeah.
have happened
Yeah,
and what
that's
they were
true.
like.
It's all about, I guess that's true. It is all about stories. Yeah, and I've got lots of experience with different people who've got incredible stories. And if I've gotten to know them a little bit, then I know more about them. And if it's a young mother, then I can talk about, the young mother I just worked with who lost 80 pounds and now she works from home and she's like, loves her life. Or if it's someone who has, other issues, I can, perhaps. So stories still. Does that help?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
It does very
Well,
much.
does anybody remember, we heard the storytelling lady who came a few weeks ago and told a story about strategic storytelling. You gave a talk about it. There were the 4 elements of a strategic story. And I'm trying to remember them right now. It's kind of like the setup, the actors or something.
Well, you want to make someone the hero.
Yeah, you want the setup, the hero, which is you, right? I mean, or whatever. I mean, it depends on what you're selling. If you're selling yourself, you are the hero.
Usually you're not in Ann Mormon's.
Why don't you go ahead and finish this?
Well, I think that was an important piece of what she was saying, is that usually you're making, one of your clients the hero, and you're more the enabler, or, you're maybe what's that?
Facilitator.
You're the facilitator, yeah.
No, I'm just talking about the 4 elements. So it's 4 things to remember when you're telling your story. So what are the 4? Just to remember them, just keeps it really simple.
Well, and then there's transformation, there's the situation, and there's a challenge, and there's a hero, and then there's transformation. I think if that's not it, it's close.
Awesome.
Is that particular, was that recorded?
Yes.
On the website? Okay, great.
Yeah, it's up on the website.
And what was it called?
So this was when we were doing, so last month's theme was speaking and presenting, and Anne Marie Mormon was here talking about strategic storytelling.
Okay.
And it is
So that's how
recorded.
you find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that just popped into my mind is last week I was at an all-day conference in Bremerton, how to survive a disaster. And what I noticed, the first 15 minutes I was there, I was approached by someone with the Bremerton Chamber of Commerce. And she wanted to know who I was, what I did. She got a short elevator speech a little bit. And the next thing I knew, within 15 minutes, she had sent like 2 people over to talk to me, which was great. And I'm just thinking out of the box a little bit, but that would be an interesting way if you or I could kind of integrate that with your approach when you're at after hours or whatever. But if you met 2 people and then take it upon yourself to maybe introduce them.
Yeah.
So you suddenly become kind of a introduction host,
Yeah.
as well as being your own business.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is something just as, that I find is really satisfying to do. So just as I might connect them with a friend of mine, I might also connect them to somebody who's at the event that I know at the event. So introducing, I think that's a really good idea.
And what they're doing, they're so smart. That happens to me all the time at chamber events. I love it. And what they're doing, I've actually met you in Seattle, but anyways, all the seminars I've gone to, way too many of them, testimonials, hard selling with testimonials. I mean, and I've actually been to coaching seminars on how to be a better testimonial giver, pay, blah, blah, blah. That's what they're doing. They're doing it really well though, so it doesn't look like they're forcing you somewhere. They're just giving you people to chat with about their experience with the chamber, and it's really great.
Yeah, so what we're saying is slightly different than that. This isn't strategic at all, again.
Holly, what's your conference about?
Oh, it's for the Society of Children's Authors and Illustrators. So it's for children's through adolescent books.
And what's your hope? What are your goals for your career, and what would be an ideal scenario at that conference?
At that conference, I'm not quite sure. I received something from them. There will be agents there and publishers and that sort of thing, but I did receive, an email saying this is not necessarily the time to pitch yourself. because there are so many attendees, it's more about learning, so you do have, or there will be, you know, I'll be doing more workshops and stuff like that. So I'm not so much, I would like to meet some of the publishers and agents and that sort of thing, but I would just like to meet more people in the community and kind of, since I'm new to it, find out where I might fit in, or where my work would fit in.
Is it in Seattle or is it?
It's in Redmond. So, you know, my history, you know, I'm a fine artist painter, and I just started doing these children's picture books, and so, and they're a little different, so it's like, I don't know quite where they go within this genre, you know? So,
Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
I attended a conference, a licensing expo in Las Vegas 3 years ago or something like that, where kind of the same setup. There was a booth kind of area where people were kind of trying to sell their licensing, but there was a lot of workshops and classes, and I had signed up for a bunch of those. And what I ended up finding, those, even though people like me were attending those classes, and they weren't necessarily people that I might market to, but what you just said about wanting to know more people in that community and doing what you're doing, I was amazed at how great it was to just get there a few minutes early to whatever the class was. Sometimes I'd be standing outside the conference room, it wasn't even open yet, and there'd be a little group of people sitting around waiting, and I would just like start chatting with somebody. Next thing you know, we're just getting really excited about what we're both trying to do and exchanging cards, and I found that, and also getting into the room where you're having the class, you know, some people like to sit way in the back and like away from everybody else, and I'm just gonna take my notes and listen and leave. But if you just sit down next to somebody and just ask them, like, hey, so what are you doing here? You know, that starts some amazing conversations, and you will find that you'll feel good just knowing, okay, there's other people out here like me going through this, and you might make a connection that could last for years or just a few weeks or just those minutes to just give you that charge. So definitely like talk to people when you're there, just introduce yourself in those classes. It's a great thing.
It could be like creating your own,
Yes.
you could be sort of going there to create your peer group.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what I kind of feel like, you know, initially I thought, I'm gonna go talk to those agents and whatever else, and then I got an email, do not talk to the agents. It's like, I will not talk to those agents. So I'm just, you know, going to meet some people and like I said, figure out where I fit within this group of people who are doing the same thing, so.
I think that is such great advice. And it's for somebody like me, who tends on the introverted side, my inclination would be to sit over in the corner and take notes and stand outside and not talk to anybody, because it just takes, there's this oomph to get myself talking. It just takes some, you know. And so I just think that suggestion that you made was such a great, it's like one of the best things that we've said in this hour, I think. And I'm getting ready to go to a conference, I'm leaving tonight. And I'm going to take your advice, and I'm going to talk to people. Standing outside the room, I'm going to think of Alex, and when I go in the room, sit with somebody I don't know.
Maybe you need to have a karaoke session before you.
I do. Just a second, Bill was.
I was going to add one thing that hitchhikes on that. What I found I do a lot is come up and meet the person, and you'll tell kind of a joke, like, you know, I was networking. We were just here, you know, to study networking, and this person came over and said, "What kind of nets do you work on?" And the person will laugh, and then they'll come back with another comment. And the next thing you know, you're chatting and talking. And I was in the Los Angeles airport once, and so we yelled across. It was a joke. "Oh yeah, how's the fried rice?" And it was a guy that I told this, and you remembered who I was.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so that, and what that really is an example of is Bill being authentic. I mean, that's just who you are. That's how you are. And so he's just willing to be himself out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I were to tell that joke, oh my gosh, I couldn't do it, because that's not me. But it's just being who we are.
You have to be whatever it is. Just when the person laughs, they change their attitude. Like just what happened here in this group. You were laughing and talking conversationally, interacting. And that's what you want to do.
I love this. I'm
And
so
you
glad
know what? Approach people that you think, because I've done this so many times where I'll look at somebody, you know how you size somebody up, and you think to yourself, I probably wouldn't connect with them.
Yes.
They either look, to this way or to that way, or they look like they're not in a good mood or whatever. And just, you know what, actually that'll be a more interesting conversation, because what could come of that? Going to somebody that you think they're not my type or whatever, it'll surprise you, I think, and you'll probably get a deeper, rounder experience overall than if you just go to somebody who's my age, my style, my whatever. It's way more interesting.
I love that. Ann?
I'd like to add to what Holly was saying. I'm an author, and I've gone to a lot of like writing and publishing conferences and stuff. And be glad that you can talk to the agents, because, on the occasions when they are talkable too, people will swarm there and everything, and all this stuff. And so, are they going to be agents and publishers to do presentations at this thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so that what you usually listen to their presentation and see if they feel like the right kind of person for you, or if they're too businessy or whatever. And their contact information will be listed in your brochures, and so later on, when things calm down, you can contact them and send them their stuff or whatever. And you can look at their website and see if they even accept submissions, or whether they want an agent as a go-between or whatever. So
So I wonder if you
takes some
two
pressure off of you.
could finish that conversation. We have like 7 minutes
Yeah,
left
because I can.
Yeah, okay,
I do
great.
want your card, by the way.
Okay, very good.
Good, great. Yeah, and I'm glad you made that connection, because that's, it's really helpful. And that you kind of looked into what she's kind of, looking for at that event. So I just have a few tips, and then I want to make sure that if there are things we haven't covered, or if there are questions that you're going to have a chance to ask them. Okay, so kind of the tips. So fun, obviously, is my number one tip. It's not fun, I'm not at my best. And if I'm not at my best, guaranteed to not go well. I now know there are times that I will be on my way to an event and turn around. I cannot get in that state of mind. Yeah, but you can't do it all the
How
time.
do you psych yourself into having fun and things like this when they're typically not fun for you?
Music.
Connect with a person that you like. Find a person, or well, you can't bring a friend, but if you bring a friend, you just have to have a rule between the two of you. You're not going to just hang out
See, this has
together.
been my experience. Bring a friend and I hang out with my friend.
Yeah, but you can support each other in branching out and then coming back together and branching out. So it's kind of like developing a muscle that's atrophied, a little bit at a time. So go to something that's fun. There are people that you like, and then start practicing it. And then what I've found is it just gets easier and easier. And then I can go to kind of intimidating ones now, and they don't intimidate me. But don't always turn around. As soon as I said, I go to an event, and if I'm not in the right state of mind, I turn around, she goes. So yeah, but I'm just saying that if you're not in the right, and you can get yourself in the frame of mind. It's like, choose a format that works for you. Like if you like the 30-second commercial thing, in addition to the mingling, then look for that, or you might be frustrated, as I have been with chamber events. Circulate, try not to stay too long with one person. One of the biggest challenges for me. Connect with people who seem lost, as I said. Start with the conversation, or with the sort of the enter with, hi, what do you do? Follow up. And the focus of the whole thing, I think, is building relationships. And it's not a short-term. I think we're getting into really unpleasant territory if we're thinking we're there to get a customer or client or whatever. So just be thinking about developing relationships. And again, this is a great place for you. OfficeXPats is a great place for you, because we're supportive and we care about each other. And this is where I started. And this is where it started getting fun for me, was at OfficeXPats. So this is a really good place for you to start. So I expect to see you here.
Nice. Challenge.
Actually connect with the other person, not do the pretend like I'm looking at you, but I'm thinking about my grocery list.
Yes.
And not have the criterion of, will you buy from me? Will you hire me?
I think what you do, just to put different words around what you just said, is that you are always curious around people. And I think you can create that possibility for yourself when you go up to meet someone. You can just
create the possibility of being curious.
And then it actually turns out interesting. And for the introverts among us, it takes the focus off of us. So what's going to happen if you don't feel like, you know, if you're introverted, you don't feel like talking about yourself or whatever, what you're doing is you're asking about somebody and they're telling you about themselves. And then if you have to, you know, if they're talking too much, then you just say thanks and go to the bathroom or go to the next person. So don't talk too much. That's the biggest thing, I think, that people, that is not a genuine connection. It's just a turn off, and it's amazing to me how often it happens. It's amazing to me how often I'll find myself doing it. When someone is curious about what I'm doing, and then I can just find myself blah, 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 and it's like, I've never actually said, oh my gosh, there I go. God, sorry I could talk so much. I mean, it'd be great for me to just kind of own it and stop it. Usually I kind of back out of it once I realize that I'm doing it, but I think we all tend to do it, and I can tell you, you know, I've been on the other side of that, and it's just no fun. I mean, I just feel used. I don't feel like valued as a person. I feel kind of fungible if somebody's just talking at me. I think, oh, the other thing I didn't talk about is watching for verbal cues, because you can tell really quickly if somebody really is, they're really a serial handshaker. They just want to kind of go around the room, hand their business card, and go to the next person. Fine, go. You asked what I do, but you don't want to hear it, so don't make them listen. You know, just let them move on. So but I think nonverbal cues are, and if they're not looking at you, I mean, you know, try to get their eye, can't get their eye, it's, you know, it's fine. They don't have to, I don't really want to talk to those people. I'd rather talk to the people who are really going to connect. And if they do ask about you, I talked a little bit about tailoring your content. So if you've already, I've said you start it with saying, so, you know, tell me what you do, or tell me about yourself. I know something about them. Then if they ask what I do, I am going to tailor what I say to them. I don't want them to have to hear about something that's completely irrelevant to me. It's like the guy who, I'm making up this guy, but I've talked to lots of guys like this, who will say, start talking to me, let's say I don't own a house, and he's going to talk to me all about this top level solar-powered water heater that is just the best, and won't stop talking to me about it. If I don't own a house, I don't want it for my rental, so shut up. You know, he doesn't even know that I don't own a house, let's say. It's that kind of thing. It's, yeah, so tailor the content. Yeah, and I think, it seems like there was one other thing I was going to say that's now left me. So tell me what questions you all have or comments.
I had one little comment just quickly. So Ann was my health coach when I was losing weight, and one of the challenges that you have when you're going to network events is how to not eat and drink the stuff that you're not supposed to eat and drink. And so I went to a social media club event, and it's $15, and they give you these 2 drink tickets when you come in the room. And I really had to transform what I was going to be and do at that event. And I decided that I was going to have fun giving away those drink tickets. And it really transformed the event for me to go and talk to people and decide, you know, am I going to give you my drink ticket?
Being interviewed for drink
Well, of course they didn't know if I didn't give it to them, but
You could have it, but I don't really like this, never mind.
But the joy that, you know, the surprise of people who got a free drink ticket was so rewarding. It was really fun. So I'm not saying that that would be necessarily your situation, but you could think about some like little gift that you have, and then, you know, decide who's worthy of your gift.
Yeah. Another way to make it fun. So look up here at what you suggested and tell me. It seems, well, I don't know, because I don't know exactly what you meant by that stuff, but does it feel like what we talked about addressed your, what you wanted to talk about, or, yeah?
Have you ever encountered a situation where you thought you may have saturated the Bainbridge Island market and may need to look elsewhere in Kitsap County or Seattle? And how did you gauge that and know that it was time to move on? Sales flatlining or dropping?
So I guess what I'd have to say is, on one level, I guess I could say the answer is yes, I understand that. And
I haven't saturated it because I don't know everybody on Bainbridge, and I don't even know everybody at OfficeXPats. So if my goal is to develop relationships, then no, but I do know that feeling of.
What if our market's a lot more smaller effectively than yours?
Yeah, absolutely then. Yeah, because my market's pretty big. So, and that I've gone to Kitsap. I mean, I wouldn't want to just focus on Bainbridge. So I done a lot of stuff in Kitsap, done stuff at Seattle is so rich with opportunities. I mean, there's so many events. That's probably worth spending some time in Seattle for you.
It's nice to be in Seattle and run into someone who's local. And you don't remember me, it's okay.
Yeah.
I was different then. But it's nice to be in Seattle and run into someone from home. It's like, oh wow, how great. It's just, because those are pretty big events and they can be intimidating.
And women, I mean, you're not a woman, so this doesn't apply to you, but women event, I mean, I just find that women in business events are so much fun. I mean, there's just sort of this camaraderie that, I don't know, we're all in this together. And
Oh, but come on, those, I know which ones you're talking about, and there's a few guys that always show up, and
that's true.
They get a lot of attention.
Oh, they go on purpose. I've talked to some of those guys.
Of course they go on purpose.
So what's in this for you? And they'll just say, oh, you would be. I mean, they're funny and they're smart too. These guys, I've watched some of the better ones. They just let the women talk and they rarely say much about themselves. And she'll finally say, and why are you here? I mean, it's just, they're so skilled, Leslie. It's amazing.
Women business owners is one of them. Women's Business Exchange is another one.
Yeah, the really expensive one on the Columbia Tower.
Oh, that's a different one.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
Okay.
That's E-Women.
That one.
Yeah.
Powerful. Sonny Colby Cook.
So you guys, yeah, that's true. It applies to all of us.
There's lots. It's,
So what do you think? Does it feel like there are other things that,
What about your follow-up? How do you, what are some of your learnings in terms of doing
important to do it? And so the best thing for me is if there's someone I had some sort of any kind of connection with, like I wouldn't mind having coffee with them, or I'd care enough to have coffee with them. That's the best thing, is if I can give them a call or send them an email and say, I'd love to learn more about you. Can we have coffee? So that's in the best case. And there's certain people that I meet that I just really like and I really do want to have coffee. So then it's not difficult for me to follow up. But there are other ones where I just kind of got a good feeling about them, and it's just, I'm pretty quick to drop the ball on those kinds of things. But
And I think, you're a little bit modest in, but your technique, and it's one that's authentic for you, is that when you go and have coffee with somebody, you're looking for how you can help them. It still is not about you. I mean, I've just seen that. I haven't been there when you have coffee with other people, but you know what I mean? I've seen sort of the what happens later on, and you're always looking for how you can help them.
And I will ask them to help me.
Uh-huh.
At that point, I'm going to ask. Yeah, because then, I mean, for it to feel good to me, because it's fun for me to help people, and I'm a business, I mean, I'm wanting to build my business, and I'm, was starting from scratch, just like a lot of people are, and I would have loved to have somebody support me, so it's fun for me to support other people, and I will definitely, in that situation, talk to them about what I do. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not going to just leave and say, okay, I've got you taken care of. No, we don't need to talk about me. No, I want to talk about what I do, because what I know is that it changes people's lives, and I feel like I have an obligation to spread the word about it. So yes, I do want to help them, and I also want to tell them what I do in that case. It's just different than networking events.
Right.
Yeah, that way.
But one thing I might throw in, Frank Luntz, the guy that writes for presidents and speeches and all, said the most powerful word in the English language is imagine. So you can come up to someone and say, imagine what it would be like if you didn't have type 2 diabetes. And immediately he points out that their minds change.
It is
and they're
powerful.
totally open to your presentation at that point.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ann.
You're welcome. This was fun. And feel free to email me, call me, chat with me around here if anything comes up and you want to talk more about it.
talking to you. Yeah.